I wanted to start with, you came in 2020, so that was kind of a weird time just with COVID, and I feel like it took a while for the resort district to kind of get back to things post-COVID.
Yes.
But historically, just in conversations with people at the Oceanfront, business owners, people that live there, typically the end of April has been sort of a weekend looked at with a lot of kind of quote unquote chaos or incidents. You had a obviously very busy weekend this year. I'm curious how the more than 50 arrests this year compares to your time and your tenure here as the chief, but what you understand about spring break weekend before maybe even you got here.
Well, it's been an evolution. And I think, like you alluded, Alex, coming out of COVID has been unique, so it makes it hard to do those comparisons pre and post. So I have to go off of the historical information that my staff provide, but I've got some facts, and what I can show you is from when I came here in 2020, and you look at the number of violent crimes and the number of shootings that we have in our resort area, they are down substantially compared to where we are in 2024. So I think it's very important for us to look at the oceanfront and the resort area and not just one challenging weekend, but all the hard work that the police department, the community, resort management office, and all the stakeholders down in the resort area. When we look at 2020, we had 65 Part 1 violent crimes committed in the resort area. Last year, we had, I believe it is 32. So over a 50% reduction in violent crimes in the resort area over the last 5 years. So 2020, when I got here, I think we had 16 persons shot in the resort area. Last year, we had 2. So we have made substantial progress in trying to reduce the number of violent crime incidents. And think about this. I know everybody looks at it in violent crime down there, but we had 14 million visitors last year. We were inviting 14 million people to come visit our city. When you look at those numbers and you look at the number of crime incidents, incredibly small. And I think we have to put that into perspective.
Anything unusual with the types of arrests that were made? I know you listed a 14-year-old with some type of
Yes.
drug.
Yeah, I think what we were seeing and what we saw this weekend is, I think everybody has historically referred to this as College Beach weekend. That's no longer the case. These are not individuals that are coming for that college spring break weekend. Unfortunately, what we're seeing are a lot of unattended minors and young adults that are coming from the local area. They're not coming to stay, they're not coming to visit the beach. They are coming merely just to hang out. And it is a public area, but the problem is they're coming, and a lot of them are bringing firearms. And what they're also bringing is that conflict that they may have from schools, the conflict that they may have from their communities, the conflict they may have from other areas. And then when they're running into each other in our resort area, unfortunately that conflict is manifesting itself. And it's manifesting itself not with fights and punches anymore, but with firearms. And I think that's why we had a robust, enhanced police presence this weekend. At one point, close to 100 officers just for that small oceanfront area. And our directives to the staff were to be proactive, to be engaging, but to be proactive in seeking out and addressing those individuals that are illegally possessing or utilizing firearms. And I think they were incredibly successful.
Do you think that having something in the water or not having it alters how you guys police that area? And what does that do in terms of how many officers you're putting down there?
It's really hard to say. I was not here for the first Something in the Water. We know that the one last year had a number of challenges with the weather, of course, the storm. I know what we have seen from the entertainment that we had this year is there were more people outside than there were inside the event area. So while there was only a few hundred inside the event area, we had 3,000 to 4,000 teens and young adults on Atlantic Avenue that had no desire to go to the event, had no desire to go to any of our establishments, had no desire to partake in anything but standing out, like young kids do. And I think what we equated is we have become the new mall, where young kids would go unattended, without supervision, and hang out. But what have malls done? They put some restrictions in place because of the disorder, but we're in a public venue, and now we're forced to deal with it from a police perspective, and I think that's where we are. So, I hear this, that we refer to it to College Beach weekend. That's a misnomer. It was a spring break weekend, but we've got, the narrative has changed, so let's be factual about what's occurring.
You talked about proactive policing. I pulled a couple of the complaints of some of the arrests, and I noticed in a couple of them, something that kind of speaks to what you're saying, proactive. A lot of officers observed just guns in waistbands, like they,
Yes.
they just saw that. Is that a concern as we move forward into, just like that behavior itself seems a bit strange, maybe stranger for me not being a
Yes.
police chief,
Yeah.
but the fact that officers are seeing, in several instances, just references grips and pistol handles
Yes.
in waistbands. I mean, why? Can you explain that behavior? Why they're so brazen about that? And
No, I can't, and I can tell you, Alex, I was down there with the officers and seeing the same things that they were, and you were coming to the Oceanfront, and you would think to enjoy yourself and have a good time, but you're coming with an AR-15 type rifle slung to your chest. I don't have an answer. So you saw the types of weapons, you saw the number of weapons, and those were just the number that were seized as the result of being illegally utilized, illegally possessed. It doesn't speak to the number of firearms that were down there, but I give a lot of props and kudos to my team, because every one of those encounters, potentially dangerous, incredibly dangerous, and they're doing it professionally, and they're removing those firearms and taking those people into custody without incident. So I think it's incredibly important that we recognize that, because when one of those incidents goes bad and we're forced to use lethal force, and hopefully that is very few and infrequent, but sometimes we react to the conditions that we're faced with. Let's think about all the dozens, the 28 times, the hundreds of times, the thousands of times VBPD officers and officers across this nation interact with armed individuals, take them into custody without incident. That's the 99%. The times that it results in an officer-involved shooting is less than 1%. Let's remember the times that we are doing it right, and not the times that, unfortunately, when we're forced to use deadly force.
The weather's
Angela.
just warming up. I imagine it's going to get crowded soon at the Oceanfront. What is your general message to the public?
The general message is the Oceanfront is a great place. I frequent the Oceanfront. Do not let one weekend with some challenges discourage anybody from coming here. It's incredibly safe. We just saw what happened in Myrtle Beach. It could happen anywhere. The pledge to the community is that we're hyper-focused on trying to address the small number of individuals that are coming down there with criminal intent and firearms, and trying to intercede, interdict, and remove those firearms before they get involved in conflict that they don't know how to resolve otherwise. So I think the message is, come to the beach, have a great time, but if you're bringing a firearm and you're not carrying it 100% in compliance with the law, we're going to find you, we're going to seize the firearm, and we're going to hold you criminally accountable.
Thank you. I understand one person did get shot on Atlantic.
Correct.
Do you know the condition? Or
It was a non-life-threatening injury to a lower extremity. I think he got shot in the leg or the foot, so that happened early Sunday morning. Surprising was, after much of the crowd had thinned out, we had a series of shots fired incidents. So That's the message is, kids, we can deal with a lot of kids coming down. We're professionals, we get paid to do that. But if you come down and you're bringing firearms and you're willing to shoot up our community, that we have worked incredibly hard to reduce these numbers over the last 5 years, it's not acceptable. We're not going to condone it. We're not going to allow it to happen. And don't be surprised if you find yourself on the receiving end of a set of handcuffs.
I had a couple more questions. I noticed that most of the offenders are not from out of state. Most are from
Yes.
Virginia. Is, in your eyes, is that a good sign that you find that people aren't coming from across the country and elsewhere to, participate in, nefarious activity here? Or is there anything to glean from the fact that most of these were Virginia arrests?
No, I think maybe it's actually the opposite. I think the fact that most of them are local is because they are coming down here for the day. They're not coming down securing, for the most part, hotel rooms. They are local. So if they were outside guests and they're coming down and occupying those hotel rooms, are they going to engage in that kind of crime, knowing that they've spent their hard-earned money to come down here for the weekend? Now, what we're seeing is most of these are local teens, they're local young adults, and we have a wonderful oceanfront. It is a great place to be. It's got great energy and a great vibe. I understand why they want to be there. What I don't understand is why they're bringing the firearms.
We're not too far removed from the substation being opened.
Yes.
I'm curious, just now that you've got a little bit of time to observe the difference that it made. Can you tell us just what you think that substation has meant, operationally for the oceanfront?
I think it was a very astute investment by City Council for us to acquire that property. The 2100 block of Atlantic had been a historic problem and a challenge for the VVPD for a long time. I don't think I heard one run call for service Friday or Saturday night for any specific challenges there. So the ability for us to have a foothold on Atlantic Avenue so that our officers aren't forced to go back to the second precinct several blocks away to use the phone, to use a computer, that they are there, they're highly visible, they're highly accessible. For us, it's been a game changer. And I think the numbers that we see, 50% reduction in violent crime offenses from 2020 to 2024, 15 persons shot in 2020 versus 2 last year. I think the substation was a well worth the investment.
Can you talk about the different types of units? It's obviously a unique area to patrol. Not everyone's going to be in their patrol vehicles, but you have the mounted units and
Yes.
the bicycle officers as well. Can you talk about how important that is to policing an area that is so unique?
Yeah, we have to hit it from a number of ways, and we've invested heavily, first and foremost, mounted patrol. Lucky that we just graduated a new set of mounted officers because those 8 officers are invaluable with helping us manage and monitor the crowd. In addition, bicycle patrol, mountain bikes, a heavy contingent, invested heavily in the trikes. You may have seen the trikes down there. They're the evolution of segways that allow the officers to be highly visible, highly mobile, but we can't forget about the foot patrol. Officers walking, engaging the community on foot, and also while you're engaging, we're seeing those indicators of crime and firearms in their waistband, which leads to a conversation.
This is my last question,
Yeah.
I promise.
No, all good.
I just want to circle back to, you talked about, made a mall comparison about how malls, when they see things happening, that they may put restrictions in place.
Yes.
Is there anything that you think City Council needs to look at, maybe not in the immediate future, but maybe consider at some point in the future if, things, not saying they would, but do you think that there's anything City Council could do or decisions that could be made that could help with some of these crowd sizes or maybe help your department?
I don't know that there's specific questions that council can assist with, but what I think, what this weekend shows is we continue to have challenges with young adults and teens during this weekend. So we have to figure out something because what we're doing is not solving the problem. You know, I think we all thought that something in the water would help us mitigate and manage that. You know, that's no longer a solution, and you know, it's hard to gauge how much that did help, because even when we had something in the water last year, we did have crowds. We had a shooting right on Atlantic, so it did not solve all the same issues that we saw this year. So, you know, what I would offer is this isn't just a police issue; it's a community issue, it's a city issue, and as we move into looking at what this weekend, spring break weekend, will be for next year, how do we mobilize to prevent a repeat occurrence, but still be accessible and accommodating for people that want to come visit the beach? And it's quite the dilemma. So,
Everyone
yes.
good?
All right, thanks all. Appreciate it.